Top of the morning, you wild gaggle of heathens. Oh yes, it's a beautiful day. I meant to do this video in a kilt because it also suits me purpose once again, but unfortunately it's stuck inside the van which Panther has taken to work, so I'll just have to do it in the vest. Alright, oh man. Another beautiful instance of the plan for the world kind of going completely wrong, so it appears. And something that is beautiful for the human race. And this, of course, I'm talking about the Brexit, right? Great Britain, the United Kingdom just voted a majority to leave the European Union. And like many other news stories, it provokes a flurry of comments born of total ignorance of the subject, or at least a very, very slight knowledge that's just passed to them by the media. But I'm going to explain to you in the course of this video why, at least from a very valid perspective, this is something to be celebrated. This is not something to be, oh, wah, Britain's not part of the European Union project anymore. Like, it's kind of hilarious to me how many people there are in America who have no stake whatsoever in the European Union project, and yet they're so butthurt about this. I don't really get it. Like, perhaps some of you can leave me some comments explaining a little bit more about why you think this is something to be sad about. It's not even like your soccer team lost or whatever. Like, this is a political event, and I will say that Panther will attest, there's never really been any competitive sports watching energy in our household, whether it's rolling or otherwise. But Thursday night, it was pretty intense right here, all right? I was updating the results from the British referendum, you know, and just watching it and getting so excited, and kind of confused her because, you know, she understands the basics of the situation, but didn't quite understand until I explained a little more why this is so exciting, why this is awesome. Okay, let me break it down. The European Union is the Titanic. Okay? The unsinkable megaship, you know, alright? And the British are getting off on a lifeboat right now. And you have people saying, oh, you guys are gonna be screwed, okay? You're in a lifeboat, the lifeboat's flimsy, you have to row with your oars. Why couldn't you just stay on the Titanic? Well, because it's the Titanic, it's going down, baby, okay? The European Union is a failed project by almost every metric you can possibly examine it on. It is a resounding failure. And I think what really gets these liberals and blue teamers really upset, and these people in this kind of Marxist dialectic, you know, that anything that reasserts borders of any kind is destructive to their worldview or something. Alright, trust me guys, I'm an anarchist. I revel in the future day that all borders will be erased and humans can travel freely throughout all the nations of the world, and we can retain our identities without, you know, enforcing them, you know, by isolating ourselves. So I understand this sentiment, okay? Let me explain a little more economics, something you guys could definitely use that would benefit you greatly in the course of understanding the world around you. Okay, the European Union is a failed project in many ways as the United States project is. It got so big and so centralized and started just taking all these powers that really weren't even its responsibility and getting in huge levels of debt. And when all of a sudden the markets, you know, flipped on themselves and the crisis came, you know, basically they responded in a very similar manner as our own Federal Reserve here in the United States. They just started buying up all the shitty assets, right? Any bank that failed, any loans that failed, sell it to the government, okay? And so you've got the government basically bailing out the banks, and in return the banks buy the sovereign bonds, okay? They buy the debt of European countries. Most of these countries will never ever repay that debt, much like the United States debt. It's never going to get repaid, so, you know. But at the same time, you have people buying the debt of all these countries, including the United States, but we're talking about Europe right now. So, if the government was not, you know, bailing out these banks, and the banks were not in return buying all of the sovereign debt of all these European countries, they'd all be fucking bankrupt right now. They'd be flat on their face, guys. They'd be done for. And, you know, so there's a saying that what can fall over, you know, or I may not know the exact words, but what can fall over, what's leaning and about to fall over, might as well be pushed, okay? And that's the state that the European Union is in right now. And people are freaking out, oh my goodness, this is the end of the European Union. And yeah, it probably will be. UK was one of the major players within this fragile construct that they call the European Union. And, you know, now the only real power left is Germany, you know? So we have this completely bankrupt federal superstate in Europe governed by Germany. I wonder what we went to fight the Nazis, you know, in World War II. I think that was to prevent a federalized superstate in Europe dominated by Germany, but maybe my history is a little fuzzy, and, you know, you people from public school. And I went to public school too, but I had the fortitude to break through that bullshit and educate myself in real history, okay? So I'm not trying to be pedantic, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I see so much stupidity, alright? Trump, okay, gotta bring Trump into the matter. So he flew out to Scotland, he's got a golf course out there, his family is Scottish, and he tweeted something like, just landed in Scotland, and, you know, the place is going wild, they finally took their country back, and you had all these blue teamers and liberals just like, man, Scotland voted to remain, you moron, I'm so smart, okay? So I actually wasn't sure why people even had this response. Panther had to kind of break it down for me why anyone would even think this is like an ignorant statement, because it's not. Okay, so one way of looking at it is, yeah, because Scotland voted by 60% majority to remain inside the European Union, you know, there's still going to be 40% of people in the country who voted, fuck yeah, let's get the hell out of the European Union. I'm quite certain in Edinburgh, or wherever he flew into in Scotland, you know, they were going wild, okay? Just because a majority voted against it doesn't mean that the minority who won the greater vote is not going to be whooping and hollering and partying. Alright, and then Panther kind of explained to me that I think a lot of people don't even get is that Scotland is part of the UK, okay? It doesn't matter if they vote, at least in one sense, it does not matter that they voted in majority to remain. They're subservient to the English crown and that principality of the United Kingdom, okay? So everybody goes along with the big vote, alright? So I don't know, if you thought Scotland was not part of the UK and they were just voting on the same day, at the same time, for the same reason, you know, now you know. The Scotland is part of the English crown, it's part of the United Kingdom along with Wales and Northern Ireland, okay? Wales and England, right? Old Britain, you know, the British part of this whole island, you know, setup. Wales and Britain voted to leave, okay? Northern Ireland and Scotland voted to remain. And in one sense, yes, it's not significant because they all abide by the same rules, but here's where the beautiful part is that people just don't get. And the Europhiles, the people who love the European Union for some mysterious reason, are, you know, they're trying to get Scotland back in the European Union, and Northern Ireland, same thing. Okay, that, you know what? It may well make more sense for Scotland and Northern Ireland to be in the European Union. They're in a different situation than England, and, you know, and so it kind of makes sense that they would have different priorities, and they would, you know, they're not swayed by the English nationalism, okay? They have their own nationalism, trust me. It's quite potent, if you will. So, you know what's fucking beautiful about this is there will be a second Scottish independence vote. Assuming it wasn't rigged, okay, one of the main reasons that the Scottish independence vote 2 years ago failed is because they were concerned about losing their European Union access to the common market of Europe if they voted to separate from the UK. Now the UK has voted to separate from the European Union. So now the tipping point is in independence's favor for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fuck yes! Are you kidding me? Alright, I am not disconnected from my ancestral memory. I am not brainwashed by this multiculturalist Marxist bullshit, okay? I can understand that, yes, there will be slight disadvantages for the hundreds of thousands of Syrian immigrants coming into Europe because of the failed imperial policy of bombing the shit out of that country by the United States and Europe. I know I'm going really fast, but you can watch this video again. It all makes sense. I've been following this shit my whole life, and for several lifetimes I've been raging against the English crown. But I've never been more proud, English cunts, to take back your sovereignty. Now it's time for Scotland and Northern Ireland to do the same. And that's a beautiful thing, okay? The Highland culture, watch Outlander, great TV show on Stars, but you know, however you can get to it, watch it, it's amazing. And it makes Scottish sexy again. There's been all these representations of tall, dark, handsome Italian and Spanish men, okay? But you know what? The Scots and the Irish are fucking sexy, and you know what? It's good to see that representation and that life coming back into the public sphere. So anyway, I'm all over the place. You can tell I'm excited, but this British vote is not just an act in and of itself, it is a pattern-setting event that will lead to a chain reaction of dominoes, and all these other countries are going to demand their own independence and sovereignty and not be subject to this mass federal European superstate that's in debt up way past its eyeballs, okay? And it's going down. So, you know, whether it means being in the EU or being out of the EU, Scotland and Ireland are looking like they might have their own independence again. Okay, Scotland hasn't had independence from the English crown for 250 something years, but who's counting, right? Like, and finally, this will bring about the liberation, the independence of my ancestors, and I'm fucking stoked about that, okay? Not to say that, again, I understand we're all brothers and sisters of the human race, but truly, I'm an Irish as Scottish as they fucking get, okay? And my family left the old land to come to the new land of the new, the United States because of all the bullshit going on over there in, the relations between the Scottish and the English crown. Okay, so there's a lot going on, but you have Americans just like, well, oh, Britain's not part of the EU anymore, they're gonna be totally fucked. And this Vice reporter running up to Trump, like, asking like, why did Trump say it would be good for, the English people and good for his golf course that the English currency is now at a 30-year low? And it's funny, it's again like you have these social justice warrior biased type journalists, and they're, they hear that Trump make a comment about, a weaker pound sterling, the English currency, means more business will come into the EU. And they're like, can you believe he said that? That a weaker British currency is good for the people? Again, you guys know nothing about economics, okay? In general, debasing a currency and it losing value is in some ways negative. In other ways, it's very positive. It stimulates basically economic activity. It becomes cheaper to buy things, assets, goods, services that are priced in pound sterling when it's cheaper. So more people want to buy things when the price goes down. That's the fundamental of the currency of the, and so again, if you guys want to criticize stuff, that's fine. If you want to, if you just love the European Union because it sounds cool to you, that's fine, and I'm not making fun of anybody because they're ignorant, but there's a big difference when you're ignorant and humble and willing to just learn and understand the situation versus ignorance that is loud and boisterous and doesn't shut the fuck up and is just wailing and whining about things that they have no understanding of. Okay, so I'm just totally stoked on this whole situation, and whether it's Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal, alright, they're all gonna have their independence referendums, and even France is having this upswing of, this EU project has not served us, it sucks, it might have sounded like a great idea 30, 40 years ago when we voted to enter it, but it's totally screwing us over now. We don't have command of our economy, we don't have control over our immigration policies, which, I'm not racist and I'm not, Islamophobic or whatever these stupid Orwellian words that they make up. But you have to understand that the refugees coming up are coming up because the European Union and the United States and the allies of the West went in, blew the fucking hell out of their country. And now they're coming up, and Turkey, this despotic, tyrannical regime, is about to be admitted to the European Union. And it's a lose-lose scenario going forward for the European Union. If Turkey does get into the European Union, then all of a sudden it's going to be part of the borderless common, area. And so all of these immigrants are just going to come flooding up into Europe. All right, that's neither bad nor good in and of itself. But if Turkey does not get admitted to the European Union, they're going to release the refugees anyway, as kind of a suck on that, guys. And so, you can say in your Marxist worldview that all immigration at all times is wonderful and awesome. And again, I am a big fan of people's being able to move throughout the world and not being impeded by the imperial state. But you got to look at the reality here, folks. All right, Sweden and Germany and all these countries that are taking in these Muslim migrants who are totally antithetical to the European, Western, liberalized culture, who are very repressed, very patriarchal, very violent. Okay, they're just raping people, and it's like fucking the bad kind of anarchy. It's like the chaos and just total shitstorm of cultures that do not fit together. Basically, these Muslim men are so repressed, and they see women wearing, a bikini, and they lose it. They go, "Bah! I gotta squeeze some titties, alright," serious. We thank God that we have been more sexually liberated over these last few generations. It allows us to have just more peaceful and fun arrangements, and not have the people freaking out about whether or not a woman's not wearing a burqa or, wearing a bikini or something. And again, like, for the people who are really all about women's power, women's rights, LGBT rights, there is no more oppressive culture in the world today to women and social minorities like LGBT than Islamic cultures, guys. You gotta take a closer look, because your babbling is starting to sound real stupid, and I'm trying to help you with, just some knowledge from my perspective that I've picked up. So don't take this as, antagonistic, all right? We're all on the same team. We all want the best for the human species. And I'm saying to you that Brexit is good for the human species, and it will lead to a chain reaction of people rising up and demanding their sovereignty, including here in the United States. And people are freaking out by the aspect of Trump ascending to the presidency, but I'll tell you what, folks. If Trump doesn't make the presidency, I'm not saying I love the guy, I love everything that comes out of his mouth, but I'm analyzing this strategically, as a time traveler, seeing how the timeline can go. If Hillary gets the presidency, we will have a World War III. We will have military escalation in Syria. We will have a direct military confrontation with Iran and Russia and China. And it's going to be ugly, folks. It's going to suck ass for any regular person in virtually any country. And we're already on the verge of a new economic downturn. Brexit will not be the cause. Do not make that mistake. It is only the catalyst for something that was already destined to happen, which is the collapse of this vast house of cards that we call our financial system in the West. And it encompasses the United States and Europe and Japan and, the countries that don't go along with that, them, Russia, China, India, Brazil, South Africa. There's the BRICS alliance. There's a rebel alliance rising against the imperial state, emanating from Washington, D.C., and not just Washington, D.C., but I'll leave the rest of that for another topic. But suffice to say, fuck yeah, Britain. Way to go, guys. Take back your sovereignty, and now it's time for Scotland and Northern Ireland to do the goddamn same, baby. All right. And in case you forgot, what matters most to an Irishman and a Scotsman is fucking freedom. Freedom.